Now this presentation, I don't know what's going to happen for the next 30 minutes, honestly. I'm in a bizarre world. It's going to be mainly in English. So, pour ceux et celles qui parlent français, je vais faire un peu de traduction pour qu'on puisse comprendre un peu ce qui se passe. I think you need physics. Were you good in physics at school and math? Steve, do we need to be good at math and physics to understand what's happening here?
It certainly helps.
You hope so. This is Steve Mann. So the idea this afternoon, they're preparing for the show tonight that's going to be performed at 6:30 and 7:30, but we thought it's such an elaborate setup that you should be part of that, you know. These are instruments that use water to make sound. Now, you know what? I'm sure that these kids here in the front can name this one.
What is it called? Comment ça s'appelle ça là?
Steve, do you have a crazy name for that instrument there that we call ice cube? A pegaphone. Why?
Okay, so does this work?
No.
Hello? Yeah. Hello?
Yeah,
Now it's working.
Yeah, we call it the pegaphone, this one here. So the idea is we make sound from the three states of H2O. Dihydrogen monoxide, H2O. It's solid H2O is called ice. We're familiar with that in Canada because we have lots of it here, ice and snow. Liquid H2O is called water. That's during the month of July, the one summer month we have when the ice melts. And then gaseous H2O is called steam, and that's when you have a hot cup of coffee or get the kettle boiling. And so these newly invented instruments, H2 Orchestra, uses these instruments: solid, liquid, gas, ice, water, steam. So when we do our performance tonight at, 6:30, I think.
Yeah, I hope you'll be there.
I hope we'll be here. There'll be 8 of us here tonight, 8 musicians, and we have the solid instrument. It's called a pegaphone. It's ice. It's like. Does everybody know what xylophone means in Greek? Xylo is the Greek word for wood, and phone is the Greek word for sound. So a xylophone is a musical instrument that's made out of wooden blocks. Blocks of variously sized wood, a longer block for the lower notes and then shorter and shorter. And you strike these blocks of wood with mallets to make sound. So what I've got here is an instrument that I call the pegaphone. The Greek word for ice is pego. So this is the pegaphone.
Donc la raison que ça s'appelle un pegaphone, pego, how do you spell that? P-E-G-O?
P-A-G-O.
P-A-G-O, pegaphone. Donc comme un xylophone, xylo c'est le bois, tandis que pego c'est la glace. Donc on va l'utiliser pour faire de la percussion. Mais on a également l'eau liquide, comme je disais tantôt, et à l'extrémité, la vapeur. Donc de la glace, l'eau liquide à la vapeur pour faire de la musique.
And so these instruments here, actually I'll take that off for a second. So these instruments, so this one for example, this instrument is a water instrument. It's like a flute. It has finger holes. It sort of looks like a giant flute, kind of like a whale. The children call her Nessie, like the Loch Ness Monster. N-E-S-S-I-E, Nessie. And so if I put my finger over the hole there, so there's finger holes. So the lowest note is A here. If I put my finger in that, the resonance in the head of the low notes, there's a fat end to this instrument where the low notes come from, and then the thin end here is where the high notes come from. Now what's nice about this flute, it's like a flute, but it sounds deeper and heavier. The water sounds deeper and heavier than the air. So it's like a flute, kind of a cross between a pipe organ and a flute. What makes it similar to a pipe organ is that you can play more than one note at the same time. If you cover up more than one finger hole, you get chords. So each finger hole is associated with a separate note. Now, if you blow into these finger holes, it's just like a pan flute. If you were to blow into one of the finger holes, it makes sound. But because there's a motor, there's a pump here that's pumping water, because humans don't breathe water. So this instrument works completely underwater. We did an underwater concert in Copenhagen where we had scuba gear and everything, and we had the instruments. We had 14 of these instruments underwater, and all of the audience members, were like some of them could swim around the pool and listen underwater. And so these instruments work best underwater. They sound best underwater. In the air, you can still hear them. Now, I had this invention. I came up with this idea for an underwater pipe organ, and I said I want to make an underwater instrument. I had a dream that I was playing in a fountain, and that the fountain was a pipe organ. And so I thought, well, I want to make this water-based instrument, because all other instruments use solid or gas. You see, the orchestra has 3 sections: strings, percussion, and wind. But strings and percussion are both of the same family. They're more similar to each other than either is to wind. In fact, if there was 3 sections to the orchestra on a stage, strings, percussion, and wind, with a little wall between each section, I think a grand piano should fall down from the sky and smash the wall between the strings and the percussion, because a piano is both strings and percussion. So that, in fact, shows really that the strings and percussion are the same section of the orchestra. They're both solid matter. Strings is a long, thin, one-dimensional solid, like a violin string, and percussion is a flat 2D membrane or 3D bulk solid. So strings and percussion are solid matter. So the orchestra only has 2 sections, solid and gas. And I wanted to make some liquid instruments. And so I started to build these, and everybody told me it was impossible. I talked to a lot of physicists and engineers, and they all said it's impossible to make sound from liquid. And they said, well, you can make sound will travel through liquid. You have underwater speakers and pools, and you can bang rocks together. If you're a diver, if you're diving under the water, you can bang rocks together to get somebody's attention. But they said sound can't originate from water, so you can bang rocks together. Or dolphins and porpoises make sound by bringing air inside, and they have vocal cords similar to ours with air to start the sound, and then once the sound originates in air, it can travel through water. But the hydraulophone originates sound in water, so it works underwater. It doesn't require any air to be present. So
a question, Steve. If we have somebody here in the crowd that plays the piano, could they play this thing?
Sure. Does somebody want to come up and give it a try?
We have somebody right there. Come this way. There's the stairs. Alors pour ceux qui parlent français, juste rapidement pour expliquer, vraiment l'idée derrière cet instrument qui ressemble beaucoup plus à une flûte, parce que ce sont des trous qu'on doit bloquer, et au lieu que ce soit de l'air qui passe à l'intérieur, c'est de l'eau. Et Steve mentionnait que l'instrument fonctionne le mieux sous l'eau. Alors il y a déjà eu même des gens qui sont allés sous l'eau pour jouer de son instrument qu'il appelle l'hydrolophone.